We actually know quite a bit about Path of Exile 2's closed beta, which begins next year.
Yeah,
we know
it's
what
in
content
June, right?
will be inside of it, we know how to access it, and most importantly, we know that it is actually going to be a thorough test of Path of Exile 2 before it is released to the greater public sometime either next year or the year after. Let's get into all that information in this video. First up, Jonathan Rogers has actually confirmed that Path of Exile's 2 beta will take inspiration from Path of Exile 1's 3.0.0 beta in the form of how people are actually going to get access to it. So to
3.0.0. Was that the Conquerors and Cirrus? The 10 acts? Oh, wow.
prepare ourselves
Fall
for that,
of
I've
Oriath.
actually pulled up the actual Fall of Oriath beta frequently asked questions. This was the forum post that involved everything to do with Fall of Oriath, which was Path of Exile's 3.0.0 expansion. So we're not going to look at the start date, the content included, Legacy League, whatever. We are looking at this snippet right here, written by GGG. And Jonathan Rogers says we should look to this to see how we should actually get access to Path of Exile 2's beta. So, how are players selected to enter the beta? For the past 2 betas, closed beta and the Awakenings beta, we used a public beta key timer on the website that would invite 1 player per 5 minutes.
That's smart.
While we gained infinite satisfaction from watching reactions from players, it was a little contentious during the Awakenings beta, and the negative aspects from players being upset outweighed the fun of the trolling.
Well, if people didn't like it, then don't do it. Yep, there it is. It's smart.
Significantly larger but silent waves of invites to invite active players, keyword, into the beta. For example, instead of 288 keys per day like before with the picker, we might actually pick 500 to 1,000 players each day that we send out invites for simultaneously. Of course, you can redeem your key here. You'll be able to download the beta client here.
Sure, all that makes sense.
We'll probably be able to do that with Path of Exile 2 as well. So already,
I think they should also try to send the beta out to people that aren't playing the game regularly, like people that only play for the first 2 and 1 day of the league, to figure out like kind of if Path of Exile 2 holds them any longer. Because I think that's like really the factor. Because like really, like where does PoE grow? PoE grows in the way that there's an audience of people that are playing the game that are not already playing the game. Now, if their goal is to grow the game, which I think it is, right? That's obviously why they're making a new game that's different, is because that's going to have a different audience because it's different design. So I hope that they do that as well. 100% give me a code too.
It wasn't just people who paid for access that got to play the beta. It was people that played a ton of Path of Exile that they invited. I have a feeling that's going to be the exact same thing.
Because this is one problem that like certain betas don't have, or certain betas do have. Like for example, a lot of games, like I think New World and Once Human are 2 really good examples of a game that really would benefit from having people that are like serious players playing the game. And that way they actually know like kind of how is the game going at end game? How are people playing whenever they start actually hitting a plateau on their gear, etc. And it's like, because I think, for example, like with Once Human, and this is the same thing with New World, is that the gameplay is incredibly great for like 20 or 30 levels. But then, after that, it's the exact same gameplay. It's the same thing. You go to an area, you complete the objectives, and then you go to another area, and then you complete those objectives. That's it. And so, I think that you need those hardcore players to kind of get ahead on the... to get ahead on these betas and figure out the end game. Isn't that everything, though? It's everything matters, right? I mean, the beginning experience matters, the end game experience matters. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times with betas, what ends up happening is that you have people who are more casual playing the game. And so you never actually see people push the limits of the game and say, hey, this isn't very good at max level. Like, for example, like you guys all remember this with New World. Like, I got level 60 in New World beta. I played the game at max level, and I said, guys, the game's great, but there's not a lot of content here, and it fucking sucks. The gear grind is garbage. It's not fun to do. It just sucks dick. And so I'm saying this, everybody else is saying I'm a liar and I'm stupid, but the truth is I was right. I was right about all of it. But the reason why people said I was wrong is because they never got that far into the game to experience it themselves. Balancing a game for pros or people without jobs is also problematic. No, see, you're misunderstanding it. Okay, so it's not about balancing it for pros or people without jobs. It's about balancing it for people that... So you have a mining canary, right? And this mining canary plays the game 1,000 hours in 2 months. Well, if you want to make a game that's fun for 1,000 hours, you want to listen to what that person has to say. Because just because you're speedrunning the game doesn't mean that other people aren't going to get to the place that you're speedrunning at later on in the future. So the same problems that I was running into at like week 2, other players started running into in month 2, because then they caught up with me. So oftentimes it's not actually the hardcore players that are having different problems. It's the hardcore players that are experiencing the problems first. And that's why it's important to bring in serious people.
Or Path of Exile 2, given what Jonathan has said. However, in addition to being selected for...
Another example, sorry. In the Diablo 4 beta, who was it that found out that Whirlwind Barbarian was the most disgusting build? Well, that would be Rob. Rob figured that out. And he was right. He was right completely. And everybody might say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, oh, yeah, but he's a super serious player. You'll hit 100 eventually. You will get Gore's Gauntlets eventually. You'll get all these legendaries eventually. And when you do, you will run into the same situation that he ran to in 1 week whenever you do it in 2 months. It's a mining canary. That's what I'm saying.
Playtime, this question was asked as well. Can I pay to get into the beta? And they answered yes. The new set of supporter packs released simultaneously with the beta will all grant access.
Yeah, sure.
In addition, we will likely invite players with significant previous support immediately without the need for a purchase. We define this as a purchase of any top tier pack, 440 or above, or people whose lifetime purchases combine to $500 or more.
Well, I'm getting invited.
For everyone who supports in any amount, thank you. You make expansions like this possible. And then they actually had the possibility to see your lifetime purchases to see if you
I don't want to look at that.
I'm curious. I might have to check my account and see if I do meet that.
I bought one of the big supporter packs this league. And so, yeah, I do it. Oh, this isn't so bad. Okay. Yeah, I can show you guys this. This isn't, yeah, wow. Every account transaction that I have ever done on Path of Exile. Here we go. So the Sandwraith Assassin supporter pack, I got this at the beginning of the league. I got these other packs as well. And then in 2018, I got 200 point packs. Apparently a lot of these, I don't know why I got a lot of them on the same day. August 28th, 2017, March 8th, 2017, and then early access pack, June 30th, 2012 at 2:47 in the morning. And look at the other time, like 5 in the morning. I'm sure I woke up early, right, guys? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is just normal.
That same $500 threshold. But for people who are truly interested in Path of Exile 2 and are avid in PoE 1, well, guess what? It looks like you will actually be able to be playing Path of Exile 1 sequel without spending a tremendous amount of money, which is something that I actually didn't think was going to be possible until I actually read this FAQ. That's exciting stuff. We also have this question down here, which is for console folks. Will there be a beta for the Xbox One version at the same time? Yes, though we aren't ready to announce the details yet. Fine. So given that, of course, Jonathan recently said that console players are going to be extremely happy about what Path of Exile 2 will offer, I also believe that there will be a significant beta for PlayStation and Xbox players that coincides with...
Great, that's good. I'm a big crossplay fan. I love crossplay.
The PC version, which is super, super cool. Okay, other than that, I don't think there's anything else that is of note in this FAQ, and we can instead move to 1, how long the beta will last, and 2, what will actually be in the content of the beta itself.
I hate these guys,
now,
bro.
Jonathan actually answered the first question right here in this thread, but I'd like to elaborate on it a little bit. So Kyovan asked, will the beta continue until launch or only be open for a set period of time? He also elaborates and says, when the closed beta opens in July, and it's actually June 7th, will it stay open from then on up until the release of PoE 2? Or will it be open for, say, a month, then close and open again later, or some other similar schedule? Jonathan responds and says it will continue until launch.
Holy shit. Wow. That's nuts. So it's like a WoW beta, kind of.
Morant follows up and says, as a follow-up to this, is there a predictive launch time? Not a date, but a general time frame. 6 months after open beta? A year? Longer? Unanswerable? I'm stoked to get into this, beta or otherwise. Jonathan also says here, I don't know exactly. I should hope it wouldn't need to be as long as a year. 6 months sounds more like it, but we will see. Okay, me talking now. This means
I don't know, man. Like, if they could, dude, that means it would come out in Christmas next year. That's fucking insane.
Everyone, they are going to be doing a long beta. Now, this isn't similar to what we see other companies doing. I'm going to use Diablo 4 as an example here. Diablo 4 had 2 open betas. It might have had
the problem with Diablo 4 is that a lot of big companies don't use betas as tools to learn. They use them as marketing devices. So the Diablo 4 beta was a marketing device, and it was presented as such. That's why everything happened in that way with the Diablo 3 beta or Diablo 4 beta.
Third stress test weekend as well, but I know for sure it had 2 open beta weekends, and those betas were not to test the game truly. Those betas were for publicity. They were trying to get people inside the game so they could make those awesome infographics about 2 million players earned the dog backpack in Diablo 4's first.
Well, which was fun. I mean, to be fair, the beta for Diablo 4 was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed it. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's just simply that, it wasn't really, the purpose was not, it was not for people to understand the game.
Open beta weekend, and this many people killed Ashava, and so on and so forth, right?
It's a marketing
They were really
device.
seeking to hype up the game and get as many people to pre-purchase the game as possible, so that June release would be absolutely massive. And it was. It worked. It was the largest release in Blizzard history. However,
is that true? I thought Diablo 4. I thought Diablo 3 sold more. I could be wrong though.
The game launched with lots of bugs.
It was?
Lots of content missing. Stuff obviously wasn't thoroughly tested. Balance was a mess. They were just shooting themselves in the foot, really, with this massive launch because they were not truly prepared. Grinding.
Well, the problem with Diablo 4 at release had nothing to do with balance. It's just that there wasn't a lot of stuff to do in the game. That was the problem. Like, most people play Diablo 4 and Diablo 3 solo. So, like, balance wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, balance becomes a big problem whenever you have, like, either massive fucking disparities or you have something that's just, like, not fun to play. PvP? Diablo 4 is not a PvP game. Nobody does PvP in Diablo 4. Like, let's just be honest, guys. It's not real.
Is not like that.
So it doesn't matter.
They are not going to do this with Path of Exile 2. They are going to give every content piece they can a fair shake. The beta, at minimum, it sounds like, will last at least 6 months, and they're open for keeping it open.
Which is good, because, like, you're gonna need, like, especially with people figuring out systems and everything, you'll probably need at least one, probably 2 months for people to, like, really flesh the game out. Because I remember back whenever PoE 1, like, was in the beta, nobody knew shit about the game. People were like, well, what's this light radius? Is this, does the radius for the light make it to where my righteous fire's longer? Because, like, fire makes light? Well, it doesn't look like it. I don't think so. No, cross that one out. Okay, what about, So if it hits them, so does it not hit them or what? Right? It's like, because Righteous Fire doesn't technically hit you. It's a degen aura. But like, so how do you figure that out? Well, you figure that out by having people spend days on the game, back and forth. That's what it is.
A year, although 6 months seems to be the
people
target.
People brick builds because they level can't keep dying. Yeah, exactly.
If it starts in June and runs 6 months until December, that is a prime time for people to buy some supporter packs and for them to launch the first season or league of Path of Exile 2. That's great. Yeah. That sounds like it would work. But of course, Jonathan is very clear. They need to make sure the game is functional first, right? That is what is most important to them. They're only going to be able to release this sequel once, really.
Yeah, and that's really the thing, is that like they want to make sure that whenever the game actually gets released, it works. And it's so crazy because like you have games that get released and they just work fine and there are no problems. Like every game has bugs, okay? Like PoE 2 will have bugs, guaranteed. But like there are some games that are defined by their bugs. Have you ever thought about how bad it is? The fact that whenever you talk to a stupid person that's saying a bunch of stuff that's random, that doesn't make any sense, people play the Oblivion music. That's because Oblivion is a game full of NPCs that are stupid that say random stuff that doesn't make any sense. Think about what the implication of that is, right? And so anyway, like look at Elden Ring. Elden Ring came out, there was no game-breaking bugs. Right? Like it had problems, it still does, same as every other game, but in general there wasn't anything bad. It didn't need like a million fucking like patches to fix all these broken things. Final Fantasy 16 was like that. Baldur's Gate 3, as far as I know, was like that. Mini games get released and they don't have massive problems.
Even though the game is going to have league after league after league release, the launch of Path of Exile 2 can only happen once, and they want to make sure it is as polished as possible. That's why they've been working on it since, I'm guessing, 2018, maybe it was 2019. We know for sure that they revealed it to the world in November of 2019. I think they probably were working.
I think that the turning point was... I'm trying to think like where there was like a massive quality increase in PoE. Like maybe the 10 acts were like one of them. Shaper was a really big one, but I don't think it was as early as Shaper. 3.0, yeah.
And since the start of 2018 or maybe a little bit later,
Maven
they've been working on this
huge.
game for almost 6 years now, this sequel, and they had a complete engine intact. They had tons of systems from PoE 1 intact. They are making sure that this is a content-rich, polished experience, and they're not only going to do that with all of the development that they've done in the studio and all the testing that they've done internally, they are going to thoroughly allow some of the smartest ARPG and just gamers in general test their entire game. Because yes, we know,
well, because, and this is what I was saying before, right, is because those serious players, people like Ben, like the problems that Ben will run into in the first 3 days of the game, it might take somebody else a month to run into those problems, but they will hit those problems too. So the faster you find out what those issues are, the faster you can start course correcting.
It's going to launch June 7th, 2024. We know that we're going to be able to access it.
And it's not the fact that you're catering the game towards hardcore players. It's you're allowing hardcore players to be the guinea pigs for what the problems will be in the long term for more casual players, which is generally what happens.
We were avid PoE 1 players, or if we spent enough in Path of Exile 1 either recently or as a net, but we also know what content is likely to be in Path of Exile 2's closed beta. This also comes from the mouth of Jonathan Rogers. He's very transparent with a lot of this. First and foremost, they want to put the entire campaign in there. They want to thoroughly progression test. They want to know, how fast do people complete the campaign? Are there any broken skills, builds, items, stuff we need to definitely adjust before we actually launch the league system? Because the way Path of Exile works, when a league retires, it goes to the standard realm. They don't want to have to void real leagues. So they want to find if there's anything wrong with the campaign, immediately. They also...
Well, the campaign is the most important thing. Because if the campaign is bad, it will filter people until they get to the other things. So, like, the campaign needs to be good.
Said, in addition to the entire campaign being in, they are going to have aiming for at least 60 endgame maps in the game to start. That means if there's going to be around 100, a little over that, they're going to have 60% of the mapping system already set up and solved. Additionally, they are not going to have an Atlas passive skill tree, but they are going to have something that accomplishes the same sort of idea. Now, that might be because the Atlas isn't the way we map in Path of Exile 2. Or
I think also that could be a good thing. I think that the less menus that you have to go through, the better in general. Like, not always is the case, but I think that a better way to say it actually is that PoE 1 has too many menus. There are too many different customizable things that you have to do. And I think at a certain point, complexity, like, it's not like complexity just makes, the more complex the game is, the better the game is. I don't think that's the way it works. I think that there are a lot of vectors of complexity that are not good.
Might be because they just want to separate out the Atlas passive skill tree of PoE 1 from the mapping editor in Path of Exile 2 to really distinguish one game from the other.
Sure,
in addition to the 60 maps, the mapping editor system, Jonathan also said that there will be other endgame systems present in the beta to test. Now, what those are, we don't know, but we can be imaginative. If they're porting over endgame systems from Path of Exile 1 into PoE 2, what immediately comes to mind are the following. Delve and the Azurite Mine, right?
I think they're probably going to redo, like, if I was going to assume what's going to happen, I think that we'll continue to have Delve. I think that we can almost guarantee that we're not going to have Harvest. Like, after the amount of times they changed it and nerfed it and changed it again and then nerfed it again, I feel like they're just going to take Harvest out of the game completely. I don't think that's going to happen. It's good now? Yeah, sure. I don't know what it is now, but I remember there was a big problem with it. I think you're probably going to get Sanctum as well. I think Breach will be in the game because it's so iconic. I think Legion will be in the game. I think Heist will be in the game. Heist League, actually, you know, I was thinking about it. I think Heist League was the turning point where it was like, to me, whenever I saw the quality of all the stuff that they put into Heist League, it was like, yeah, this is the beginning of, like, PoE 1 is now PoE 1.5. Like, now that I think back on it, Heist sucks. You might not like Heist, but, like, it's clearly a very well-designed, like, in terms of, like, graphics and, like, the amount of effort they put into making it, right? Heist was a skip? Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think, which other ones do I think they're going to keep? They'll probably keep the Rogue Exiles. Like the, what was it, Anarchy League, I think. And I hope that they keep Ultimatum. I like Ultimatum. I don't think they're going to keep Betrayal. I think Betrayal is too convoluted with the upgrade system, and I don't think they're going to keep Betrayal. I don't think they're going to keep Expedition either. I don't think they're going to keep Synthesis.
Jonathan loves Delve. It's expansive. It's beloved. It was ingenious how they implemented this endless dungeon in which you can gather materials to craft and make the best gear around and just keep going and going and going. It's truly infinite. So that probably will be in Path of Exile 2 alongside maps. In addition to that, I would not be surprised if Heist is also in Path of Exile 2. I have a feeling many of the characters...
I think the reason why also is because I think GGG, if I were, I mean, I don't really know, right? But I bet they are disappointed that more people don't like Heist, because it's very clear that they put a tremendous amount of effort into making Heist, and it seems like a lot of people don't like it. And maybe even if people don't like it, it's like so polarizing. People either love it or they hate it.
That we see in the Rogue
all the voice actors, right? Yeah, everything's voice acted. It's
for
crazy.
Path of Exile 2
all
first,
the new gear,
and then put into Path of Exile 1.
Gems, everything.
I wouldn't be surprised if that entire sequence is just updated to be in the story of Path of Exile 2 and recycled wholesale. The heisting system is unique in ARPGs. It's unique in Path of Exile. and it has a small subset of people who greatly enjoy
They invested
the
so much into this.
In addition to delving and heisting, I also think that Delirium is a shoe-in for Path of Exile 2, not only because it has been confirmed by the PoE2 team, but because it is...
I think, yeah, Delirium is, in my opinion, I don't think Delirium is that great. The reason why is that I feel like it creates so much visual clutter, it's hard to tell what's going on. But it feels very good to play. It's almost like I would like Delirium more if there wasn't all of these gray effects. Gray on gray on gray. Yeah, exactly. But I do enjoy Delirium.
A fundamental part of Endgame ever since it was released into Path of Exile 1.
Yeah.
Being able to add this extra layer of incredible juice onto your maps and create Delirium maps themselves is amazing. And
I'm also thinking, like, is there the possibility that Delirium is almost like antithetical to what PoE2 is supposed to be? Because Delirium was like a massive zoom, monster overload, AoE everything down, kill it all, where like PoE2 is like much more like a defined, measured, deliberate experience. So like I don't know how they're going to do Delirium. They could have it work differently. I'm actually really curious about this. Because you guys can see what I'm saying, right?
And build ceiling in Path of Exile so much higher than it was in the past.
Yeah.
So I think it will join delving and heist in the trio of initial end game systems.
They've got to have Breach, man. Breach is so cool.
Features in Path of Exile 2 from Path of Exile 1. Now, in addition to those three, I do think there will be another brand new end game system in PoE 2. What that might be, who knows? It could be some sort of Coliseum system, which is something that we really haven't seen in Path of Exile wholesale.
That's a really cool idea, and I like that idea a lot. You know, like the Duresso part in like Act 3, where you go from like different like rings. Oh yeah, that would be really cool. I'd love that. Fuck.
Be the long-awaited delve,
campaign.
But up. It could be a true expedition system. We know all the expedition NPCs are in Path of Exile 2. Maybe we're actually sailing from island to island in expedition, which was the original plan for the League in Path of Exile 1 before all of that was cut due to time constraints. Overall, already, it sounds like Path of Exile 2.
I don't like, so the ones that I don't like expedition. I don't like Harvest. I don't like Heist. I don't like... Basically, I don't like things that take me away from doing the map. Like where I have to actively interface with a menu and then figure things out through the menu and then play the game. I like having consistent gameplay, such as Calandra. Like, for example, I like Breach because it's like, holy shit, there's a bunch of fucking guys here. And then Legion, holy shit, look at all these guys. Wow, look at them all. And then even Betrayal. Oh, where'd these guys come from? You know, beyond the Ritual. Yeah, Ritual. I love Ritual. Ritual's great because you're just killing the mobs. But like in Expedition, I have to sit there and like read each one. And yeah, I have the big bomb trait as well, like right now in this league, because I'm like, miss me with that bullshit of clicking every single one of them. But like last league, I tried to min-max so I could get as many logbooks because I made a ton of money off of those.
Is going to be filled to the brim with end-game content. But that's not it, everyone. Truly,
good point.
That's not all. Remember that Path of Exile 2 is coming with a whole host of new skills, new characters.
I think what I'm going to play in PoE 2, the first thing I want to play, actually, is I want to play a minion class. Because I bet minion classes will either be the most broken, overpowered garbage in the game, or they will just be so horrible it makes me want to quit the game.
Classes and new ascendancy classes. Now, Jonathan said their plan is to allow all players to play all of the classes and ascendancy classes in the closed beta. However, that might not be feasible. So there might be a few ascendancies and or character classes that are not available to play in that closed beta initially. However,
that's even the case now. Like, if you look at it from an abstract sense, like, remember, I think they redid Chieftain recently? Like, that was effectively, like, that's a new ascendancy. Like, they do this all the time.
They will be adding tons of Path of Exile 1 League
Trickster?
content to the
Guardian,
closed beta
yeah, Guardian
throughout
too.
its 6 months to 1 year lifespan. They will also be adding new ascendancies and new character classes into that closed beta if they aren't there at the very beginning, which is awesome to hear. We don't even realize how much content there is in Path of Exile 2 yet. And really, Jonathan understands that. He said to Kripparrian in the interview, their plan is for Path of Exile 2's
That's
close
fucking cool.
to Kripparrian in the interview.
That's really cool. I like that. Holy shit. The fucking starfish, Evil Patrick.
And is for Path of Exile 2's closed beta to dwarf, essentially, any other ARPG on the market in terms of content when it's in closed beta. I mean, that's shocking to hear, but it might...
I'm actually thinking about... Because, like, obviously PoE 2 is like, probably the one I'm most excited for, but I'm thinking that after I do Monster Hunter, I'm pretty sure I'm going to play Last Epoch. I'm going to try that one out, too. That way I have, like, a better understanding of the game. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to try that one out and just see what it's like. Because people say, like, you know, PoE's here, Diablo's here, Last Epoch is here. I want to find out why they say that. I'm going to download it. February release. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take for me to finish Monster Hunter. It'll probably take a good 3 weeks. Could be more. So it'll be a while. But I feel like right now with like the Diablo season isn't even announced for a date. PoE season, you know, just came out. So like I think this would be a really good time for me to try it out.
Be right. Just the new character classes and ascendancies alone is going to be hours and hours and hours of content for all of those PoE players out there.
Yeah.
So much buildcraft, so many more new ideas and possibilities in PoE just with ascendancy classes that are new just unfold. And it's phenomenal and just enticing to think about. I cannot wait to see what the ascendancy classes are for the druid. And speaking a little bit more on
I can't wait. Like the druid build that I want to play is the one that somehow you have the infinite bear form with maximum AoE scaling. So the little stomps that he does just hits everything on the screen and you just run through the entire map and you're a bear and you just kill everything and you don't touch anything. It's like basically Ward Loop or Righteous Fire, but it's just you're just a bear.
Classes themselves.
Bear mode. Yeah, exactly.
I would posit that
That's
many
what I'm
of
hoping
the classes are going to be ready to be in that closed beta, especially the ones that are brand new and have been showcased.
Yeah, I would actually assume that like we probably won't see a lot of completely untested classes that are very unique in design.
The druid, the huntress, the warrior, the monk, the sorceress, and the mercenary. Now, the other 6, I would posit that they would also be ready too, but Jonathan did seem to hint that not all the character classes might not be ready on that June 7th date.
That's reasonable. Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess that the brand new ones were the ones that had the first coat of paint set on them after they decided to add 6 more classes to the game, and we've seen gameplay of them. I think they will be good to go. Honestly, I think all 12 will be ready. It might be the ascendancies that will be added to the game throughout the closed beta. Don't forget as well, there's a ton of item changes coming in Path of Exile 2. There's a ton of crafting changes as well. We're going to get the crafting bench, but in a different form. A lot of the crafting currency has been completely revamped, everyone.
Thank fucking God. Crafting in this game is... It's like, well, they've spent 10 years, every league, adding 3 different things you can use for crafting. So, after 10 years of every few months they add in 3 different things, man, that's a lot of stuff.
Chaos orbs, for example, act as an annulment orb and an exalted orb in one. They remove a modifier and then they add a modifier. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Orbs of alteration, they are gone completely. No more spamming magic items with thousands and thousands and thousands of orbs of alteration like I've done in Path of Exile 1 Affliction League. And on top of all of this actual content, there's of course going to be all these beautiful graphics and animations and sounds and music that we're going to get to thoroughly test as well. Our computers, I'm guessing, will be extremely stressed, but I know some of us are upgrading in anticipation for this brand new innovative ARPG.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is like, I don't think this game is going to be massively graphics intensive. Not any more than like Diablo 4 or any other game. I think it's going to be about the same.
That honestly is what I am doing.
Yeah.
I am making a mega computer, and I am confident I will be able to stream every Wednesday. And once the beta releases, I'll be streaming a little bit more often, and I will be showcasing Path of Exile 2 to as many people as possible. Okay, Exiles, just to recap, Path of Exile 2's closed beta begins on June 7th, 2024. You will be able to get into the closed beta either if you played a lot of Path of Exile 1, you've spent a lot recently, or your lifetime spend in the game has been $500 about or more.
Sure.
That's based on 3.0's closed beta. Now, inside the closed beta, you are going to be able to test the entire campaign, a lot of the endgame, a lot of leagues, all the itemization changes, the classes, ascendancy classes, crafting system, bosses, the new graphical engines and animations, all this stuff. And you're going to be testing it not for 3 days during a press beta weekend, not for a week, not for 2 weeks. You're not going to be under NDA. You're going to test this for about at least 6 months. So that's June.
I think that this is the way that PoE did it. Like PoE 1 did it. Like, does anybody remember back in the day? Like, PoE 1 was in beta forever. And then it finally came out, and it was good. Because, like, really, it's also, a lot of it is managing expectations of the public. As soon as a game comes out of beta, everything that people see about the game, they will view as the final form of that content. Now, we as people that play games like this know that it will change and evolve over time. However, a lot of random people don't necessarily know that. So whenever the game actually comes out and is out of beta, then people will like have totally different expectations for it.
To December at the least, and perhaps all the way from June to June, a year out. That's because GGG wants to make
Somebody says PoE 1 had zero competition, though. PoE 2 kind of does. Really? That's crazy. So I guess Reaper of Souls never came out. I guess Diablo 3 wasn't the fastest selling PC game in history at the time. I guess these things didn't... I remember, bro, everybody in the general chat of Path of Exile 1 was talking so much shit about how bad Diablo 3 was. Because everybody there had played Diablo 3 every day since launch, been fucking furious about it, so mad. And you know what the funniest thing about this is? The fact that whenever Path of Exile 2 beta comes out, everybody in general chat is going to be talking about how bad Diablo 4 is. I guarantee you, man. Oh god, yeah, it's going to be the same thing.
Ready for the release of it to the greater public. They only have one chance to release Path of Exile 2 and really grasp a huge number of players into what I see as the best ARPG that will probably be on the market besides for Path of Exile 1. Yeah. I am in love with
I'm not sure really, right? I mean, I think that that's probably going to be the case. I mean, they're going with a... I mean, if anybody can do it, it's going to be them, right? I mean, fuck.
Exile 1. Anyway, Last Epoch might compete. We'll have to see how that goes. I'm going to be playing it again soon. Tell me,
I want to try
Exiles,
that game and play it myself.
Are you excited about Path of Exile 2's closed beta? Did you learn anything from this video? Are you pumping up your numbers in Path of Exile 1 in Affliction League to make sure that you are invited to Path of Exile 2's first wave of closed beta people? Well,
I did that, but I didn't know I was doing that on. I just made a. I just made a purchase. I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy this. You know, like I want the hoodie. I'll get another hoodie for the game, and you know, I'm a winner.
Anyways, that's all for this video.
Yeah.
Alamoana Exiles.
There it is. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, I totally fucking agree with this. I feel like with PoE 2, it probably will I feel like a game like Last Epoch exists because of Path of Exile. And in the same way that Path of Exile exists because of Diablo 2. And I just hope that, like, with PoE 2, that continues to move forward. There's the video. Make sure to give it a like, guys. This was amazing. I loved it. I'm very glad to see people that are enthusiastic about this game. I'm thinking also, like, this is going to continue happening, right? I mean, like, dude, look at this. Is so... Jesus, bro. Look at the recommended. Path of Exile 2 destroys Diablo 4, even in alpha. 1.3 million views. Jesus Christ. Oh, boy. I mean, like, look. Diablo 4, it's not the worst game that's ever been made, all right? But, man, that's really not a good start. I mean, fuck, Diablo 4 makes me sad. As I said, guys, I think the real atrocity is the fact that you look at some of the boss fights in Diablo 4, and then you see a boss fight in the beta, in the fucking no, not beta, in the pre-alpha. How is this possible? How does something like this happen?